Hello again, everyone. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, which features dispatcher one-on-one training for beginners as well as freight broker one-on-one training for beginners. Today's lesson will be a continuation of Module 1, Carrier Acquisition. It's Lesson 2, which deals with the methods used to acquire carriers under a dispatcher agreement and profile. So the next lesson we'll go over the dispatch agreement and profile, but some of the methods used to get a carrier to convince them to say, hey, yeah, I want you to be my dispatcher, find the loads for me, and I'll give you a percentage for that service. So method number 1 is, of course, if you have truck stops that are within your local area, like we have Pilot, TA, Loves, Flying J's. These are typical truck stops for the carriers, the owner operators, the truck drivers to park their trucks, go fuel up their trucks to continue on in their route, rest, shower, wash the truck, get truck repairs, things like that. So whatever services these truck stops offer, if you have these truck stops living within let's say a 20-30 mile radius from where you live specifically, then you can easily go up there, visit the truck stops, start a conversation with the carriers one-on-one, making eye contact. They see your body language, they see how sincere you are in your pitch and in your delivery. Also too, if you have business cards, if your independent dispatching firm is set up as a business, then you can pass out flyers, business cards, things like that. Again too, my thing, if you're gonna post anything on bulletin boards in the truck stops, of course, as you see here, the underline section, you want to get the permission from the management. You just don't want to go in there and do that without permission. That's kind of disrespectful, so make sure you get their okay, their blessing in that, and then you can go in there and post. But in the meantime, just walk up to the carriers while they're eating lunch or whatever, sit down and have a conversation, even offer to buy lunch. There's cases where I offered to purchase a lunch and I started a conversation. Now, the way I did it, I didn't pitch like to try to get a carrier under a dispatch agreement. What I did is I asked them a question or a series of questions. I asked them, I said, if you had a dispatcher working for you or helping you find loads, what would be some of the qualities that you would look for or expect from your dispatcher? So phrasing it like that, then you opened up, a whole lot of responses, because, one of the number one responses was, I need someone who's going to communicate, that I can get a hold of, someone who can find me decent paying loads, who can handle all my back end administrative work for me. So if you put yourselves in the shoes of a carrier, then you can understand why they want that. They want someone that they can reach out to. Communication is key. I need to know everything in the process. We need to keep the lines of communication as transparent and open as possible. So the number one method used to acquire the carriers under a dispatcher agreement and profile would to be locally, visit your local truck stops in your area, assuming that they are within a decent radius from where you live. The second method, cold calling. When you cold call someone, you're calling someone for the first time you've never spoken to before. So you're kind of in the dark here, whether you're going to get a positive or a negative answer. But there are certain ways that you start off those conversations. Like what I used to do when I pick up the phone and call and speak to a carrier, depending on which equipment type that I decided to start my phone calls from, I would usually start off, hey, are you under a load or are you looking for a load? So when a carrier hears that, they usually think that you are a broker. So you would have to, if you're going to start your phrasing off like that, then you will want to let them know that, no, I'm not a broker. Especially they're going to ask, I'm not a broker. I'm an independent freight dispatcher. I find loads for carriers. I do the back end work, the administrative work, the carrier packets, the rate confirmations. And all this will be explained later on as we get into load boards and booking loads and things like that. But I'm just giving you the high level method as far as cold calling. So you'll ask them, are you under a load or looking for a load? They'll say, well, I'm empty here. And then let me, what do you got for me? And you'll start that conversation and going from there. One of the resources that we train on in the other ongoing training portal platform, Dispatcher 101, is we use the a load board called Truckloads or Trucker's Path, and there's a truck search feature on there. So if you see this screenshot here, this is an example of what it looks like. And in addition to that, we use the SAFER, or the company Snapshot, from the FMCSA, which is the Federal Motor Carriers Safety Administration Safety and Fitness Electronic Record System, to kind of vet out the carriers to make sure that they're not part of a brokerage, because we don't want to double broker. Double brokering is if you are dispatching for a carrier who is an asset under a brokerage, because remember, when you're dispatching for a carrier, 9 times out of 10 you are calling a broker to book that load for that carrier. So if you're calling a broker to book a load for a carrier who is already an asset or a part of a brokerage, then that's where the double brokering concept comes in at, and that's frowned upon, a no-no at DOT and FMCSA standards. So if you are fortunate enough, and you can set up a free account with Truckloads Trucker's Path, but I will show you here the truck search feature of Trucker's Path. Log into that, and then also to the SAFER website. So I'll give you a high-level overview of what these look like, as opposed to showing them on the screen. So here's Trucker's Path. You can do a free account and set it up, log in. So when you first log into Trucker's Path, you'll get to this screen here. You got 3 options: loads, truck search, GPS tracking. Usually choose the truck search feature. So what I usually train under the ongoing training platform, Dispatcher 101, this gray area here, pickup states. Now, if you notice here too, by the way, there's 112 carriers right now who are logged in right now as we speak at this current login time, right? And the way you read this is they logged in, this person logged in a minute ago, the name of their company, US Truck Lines Inc., their equipment type, which is a reefer, satisfactory rating, and their name and their phone number. So at the end of each one in the line, you see a little blue drop down arrow. If you click that, it opens up that specific carrier or their trucking company, and it gives you more detailed information about that particular carrier. Now back up here to the search feature where you can filter out criteria. I usually recommend dispatchers to leave all states selected, because you increase your likelihood of finding carriers for the 3 major equipment types, unless you have a specific state that you want to start off and target, because you can only either select all states or 1 state at a time. So, and then under equipment it says any, so I click the drop down, click on any to deselect everything, and then I select the 3 equipment types. And then under the safety rating, I click the drop down, deselect everything, and only select satisfactory. Because if you think about it, and let me hit search, so now this 112 is going to decrease because I've kind of drilled down my criteria to more specific things. But back to the safety rating, if you think about it, I would not want to call a broker having a carrier under a dispatcher agreement whose safety rating is either conditional or unsatisfactory. So that's the reason why I only select a satisfactory safety rating. So now 112 went down to 58. So fortunately, that first gentleman is still there. He has a satisfactory safety rating. and he is one of the 3 equipment types that we selected. So again, you would open this up, and what I normally would do is I would copy their MC or DOT number. Each carrier, owner, operator, truck driver has a unique motor carrier number. That's what MC stands for, or a DOT number, Department of Transportation number, for their company that uniquely identifies them to brokers and shippers when they're booking loads. So everyone has a unique number. That's what that's for. It gives them the authority to run the freight. So I copy the MC number, and then I go to the Safer site. Safer site, you can look up, get a company snapshot of any company based off of their DOT number, their MC number, or the name of their company. In this case, it is MC number that I copy. So I'll select the MC number and then put that value for their MC number, and then hit search. And now it gives me more criteria about that company. So their entity type, this is important, they are a carrier instead of a broker. You don't want it to be a broker. So if it said carrier slash broker, or carrier slash broker slash IEP, IEP is intermodal equipment provider, I usually just make sure that the entity type just says carrier alone. Okay, and then you want to see how many power units or tractors they have, how many drivers. So they have 15 drivers and 15 tractors, their MC number, their DOT number, and their address information. All this is public record, so you can look through here and get information. There's more information, their accidents, what they haul, general freight, produce, their reefer, refrigerated for, they're authorized for hire, so they're owner operators, accidents, things like that. You can get a lot of data, any injuries, tows, crashes. So you get all this information in here within the last 24 months if they were in Canada, so on and so forth. But this box area here is generally where we start off for beginner dispatchers, to kind of vet out the carriers to decide if you want to call. I recommend for beginner dispatchers to call carriers who have maybe 3 to 5 power units or less. So what I would do is I would not call this one right now for a beginner carrier, because you don't have enough experience to work with larger trucking companies. You haven't begun to book loads yet, so you haven't even booked your first load. So I would go to the next person and then do the same process again, open up their information, copy. Now in this case it's DOT, so last case it was MC, so that's good that it showed that. So now I would just select DOT radio button and put their information in there, and then search, and now the information changes. So here it's a little bit smaller, so they don't have 15, they have 5. So you can consider doing that. They are a carrier entity type, they're based in California, so on and so forth. So you can make the decision to call. So you would call the number, you have their email, you have their safety rating. Also too, back to the safety rating. The safety rating being satisfactory, conditional, or unsatisfactory, it has 5 subcategories to determine the safety rating. Whether their authority is good, their operating, safety, insurance, and other. So if you click one of them, it gives more detailed information about that particular subcategory that you clicked on. So let's close the details. You want to go down to, let's say, operating. Their operation is acceptable. They haven't been out of service. They're interstate. You have intrastate and interstate. They're interstate, which means they can go outside of the state of their residence. So that's the safety rating. So you would call, if you made the decision to call this person because they had 5 or less trucks, you would call them. They would pick up, and you would ask them, are you under a load or looking for a load? Then you would start that conversation from there. So and then go from there, and then however your pitch or your idea to convince them to be a dispatcher for them. So now let's say, for example, you start the conversation, are you under a load, looking for a load? They'll say, no, what do you got? You a broker? And you say, no, I'm not a broker, I'm an independent freight dispatcher. Now here are some extra questions that you would ask for them. You want to know, their equipment type. Even though you see it's a reefer here, okay, you have a reefer. I see you have a reefer. So are you under a load, looking for a load for your reefer trailer? And I say, no, what do you got? I say, well, how much weight are you trying to pull? What is your cents per mile? What are you looking to make? And where are you trying to go? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a profile, if you will, indirectly for the carriers, so that I can find them what they need, going to where they want to go, and giving them how much they want to make. So when I find loads, and I'm telling them that when I find loads, I will only call you when I have a load that meets that criteria. So if you see my number pop up, you know that I got you a load. Let's say, for example, in this example, reefer, let's say he wanted $2.50 to $3 a mile. If I found a load that paid $2.75, and let's say he wanted to go wherever he said he wanted to go, and we found him that load, and it was under the weight limit that he wanted to haul, then it sounds like he would be likely to consider taking that load. That's an aspect of dispatching. You're giving your carriers exactly what they want, how they want it, when they want it, for how much they want it for. So does it always work like that? No. There's some wiggle room going either way, in the positive or the negative direction. But for the most part, as dispatchers, we try to find what the carriers need to haul that load. So this is one feature that we use one method that we use to go after carriers in the cold call category. The other load board that we would use to find a load for, or look for carriers to call in order to convince them that we could be their dispatcher, is this is the DAT load board Trucker's Edge version. So you would go to, if you have a login, like students on the subscription based platform, they have a login to this load board. So they'll log in, they'll go to tools and hit the DAT directory. So now the DAT directory is another feature that comes up, and it provides similar information. So in the DAT directory, you have 4 tabs: search directory, my office, manage reputation, and